2025. And this is the regular meeting of the Monroe Township Planning Board. Notice of this meeting was given as required by the Open Public Meeting Act, and a copy was posted on the second floor bulletin board in the town hall and on the township website. Be advised, no new item of business will be started after 10:30 p.m., and the meeting shall terminate no later than 11 p.m. Aim.
Please note, audio and video of this meeting is being recorded in accordance with ordinance 056/2024. The meeting is being broadcast live on the township's YouTube channel, and a link to view this meeting will be subsequently posted on the township website for the public to view at their convenience.
All right. You want to rise for the pledge of the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Secretary. I know you're running back and forth.
Mr. Giacomucci. Here. Mr. Hessel. Here. Ms. Kennedy. Here. Mr. Laughlin.
Here.
Mr. Maury.
Here.
Mr. Kozak.
Here.
Ms. Fox.
Here.
And Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Present.
Mr. Kernan.
Here.
And Mr. Dockney is excused tonight.
All right. First order of business is extension request. You're going to have to read that.
For site plan 505 SP JM Investments, extension of preliminary and final major site plan approval. Mr. Mattio?
So if I can
Go ahead, Ed.
interject, if the board may recall, last year, Mr. Mateo or Matteo?
Matteo is,
Mr. Matteo appeared.
I'll answer
before
to
us
anything.
on behalf
Okay.
of the same client, and he asked for a very brief extension under the MUL to perfect and record a subdivision deed, which the board had previously approved, which he timely did. He returns now today on behalf of the same applicant, asking for an extension of the vesting period for the final major site plan approval that his client obtained back in 2022, if my recollection is correct. And that application was subject to lots of litigation. And so the period that tied that application up through the litigation essentially tolls that period of time. The vesting period expires in March of 2026, and Mr. Mateo is asking for an additional year. I think he and his client are within their right to make that request, given the fact that pursuing the development was delayed as a result of the third-party litigation that was involved. I think there's a reasonable basis for the board to grant the extension.
All right. Do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I think I should just enter my appearance for the record. Again, my name is George Matteo. I'm an attorney here in the state of New Jersey. I represent J&M Investments, LLC. J&M Investments, just to clarify one thing, Mr. Campbell did an excellent job giving us the procedural history. My client wasn't the original applicant to get the approval. This was the site where there was Lidl USA was the applicant for the site plan approval, subdivision and site plan. When I came in, as Mr. Campbell indicated, to get the extension to file the subdivision, to perfect the subdivision for the shopping, the supermarket portion of the site and the bank portion. My client wasn't quite sure what he would be doing, if he'd be seeking a new site plan or staying with the existing site plan that Lidl got approved. They've determined now that they're going to try to pursue a similar type of use for the site, and therefore they're talking with shopping, grocery stores and supermarket type users. So they've asked to come in and get an extension to continue to try to work that development out. So the existing site plan that's there, as Mr. Campbell indicated, we're protected because of the multiple years of litigation on the site. Didn't involve us, but, you know, we're the subsequent purchaser. And we're asking for the one-year extension, which will take us out just to give more time and to make sure that that site plan is preserved while my client is attempting to find a user for it.
All right. Any question for any of the board members from this
I do,
application?
through to the solicitor.
Go ahead,
through the
Dan.
Chair. So under the MLU, they're entitled to this extension?
Yeah, so under the MLU, they're entitled to come and ask for up to 3 one-year extensions. And if there's a reasonable basis for that, it's incumbent upon the board to grant it.
To grant it.
And given the multiple years of delays of the litigation, I think there's a basis for the board to grant it.
Right, I just wanted to clarify
Yep.
that, so that's why we could consider this and this, it's for Rich.
Anything else from any of the board members?
This is the first extension.
Hearing none.
This would be the first extension. Right.
They can do it up to 3 times.
Correct. Yep.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve this application before the board.
Motion.
Second, Kozak?
Roll call.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Kozak?
Yes, with the advice of our solicitor.
Mr.
Yes.
Jacobucci?
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Laughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Hessel?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Maury?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Extension is
Mr.
approved.
Chairman, members of the board, thank you for your time and appreciate the courtesy.
Thank you.
All right. Next order of business is ordinance.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you want to adopt the resolution tonight?
Oh, you want to handle
It's
that?
up to you.
I have it.
If you have it.
We didn't mention it.
Thinking that this is going to be a pretty straightforward application, I drafted a resolution
Okay.
which would memorialize the decision you just made, and it would be Resolution PB 1225, and it's entitled "A Resolution of the Planning Board of the Township of Monroe Approving an Extension of Final Site Plan Approval." If you want to-
Extension, did you put a time for 1 year? or
Yeah, for
it's
1
in
year.
there?
Well, right now, it expires March 20th, 2026. The extension carries it to March 2027. So now therefore it be resolved that the planning board, for the foregoing reasons, as well as those stated on the record by planning board members, which are incorporated by reference herein, grants the applicant a 1-year extension of its final site plan approval until March 2027. This extension is subject to the condition that the applicant will abide by any ordinance or other law, such as but not limited to COA, affordable housing fees, recreation fees, et cetera, which are in effect at the time any construction may begin, as well as all other conditions imposed as part of prior approvals. The applicant seeks no relief related to prior preliminary and final site plan approval memorialized in Planning Board Resolution 10/2022, and none is granted. The applicant shall reimburse the board for reasonable costs and expenses incurred in consideration of this application. Be it further resolved that the board secretary be and is directed to immediately transmit a certified copy of this resolution to the municipal clerk of the Township of Monroe to remain on file with the township. So if the board would be so inclined, they could entertain a motion to adopt that resolution.
Okay. You heard our solicitor. I need a motion.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call. Mr. Hessel?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobucci?
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Laughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Kozak?
Yes,
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Maury?
Yes.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
We'll do this
All right.
for next month. Sure.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
We're going to do this.
What, we are going to do it?
Yes. We have a reorg resolution that we did not address at the time of reorg for appointing a conflict solicitor for the planning board. Does anyone have a nomination?
I'll nominate Chuck Fury.
Are there any other nominations? Is there a second?
second.
Okay, roll call for that?
Yeah, roll call.
Okay. Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Hessel? Mr. Giacomucci? Mr. Laughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Kozak?
Yes,
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Maury?
Yes.
Thank you. Approved appointing Chuck Fury as the planning board conflict solicitor.
You'll notify me.
Yes.
Okay.
Ordinance amendments.
All
You
right.
want Ed
Yeah.
to lead?
Sure.
Do the amendments.
Sure, if I can, Mr. Chairman. So there are two ordinances for you to consider tonight. And what we would ask you to do is to recommend their approval back to council. The first is an ordinance to amend the Hexa Builders redevelopment plan for a portion of a commercial redevelopment area. Now, that land is already subject to a redevelopment plan, but in order to facilitate the development of that site, the developer, in conjunction with the town's planners and staff, have made some certain recommendations to modify or amend that redevelopment plan. Council has reviewed it. They're required to send it to you for you to hear from your planner. If you want to weigh in on that, Tim, and maybe offer some comments as to that particular amendment.
Be happy to, yeah. So this ordinance was prepared by the solicitor for the town, Sandra Grace, in conjunction with the owner, developer of that property. And it's really to add as a permitted use data centers. You can see it in bold and black underlined throughout the ordinance. Everything, along with everything that goes along with data center, extra, power requirements and what have you, suppression systems, cooling systems, what have you. I would have felt that maybe even a data center was already considered a permitted use in an industrial warehouse type use, but to be abundantly clear, I think the owner developer really wants the redevelopment plan updated with this ordinance. So I certainly find in favor of it. I think it would be a great use for that site. I think the second part with this, in recommending that council, in fact, adopt this by ordinance, the second part would be to also find that it's consistent with the master plan. I pulled up the master plan. The new master plan was adopted by this board in December 22, so it's only not even, just over 2 years old. And one of the goals, goal number 8, states to support commercial and industrial businesses by anticipating and adapting to changing uses, economies, and market demands. And I think a data center is kind of a newer, changing use. The third objective under that goal number 8 says this: expand and reconsider industrial use classifications to align with modern industrial formats and uses. Again, I think a data center is a modern industrial format and use. So I think this ordinance clearly falls in line and is consistent with the newly adopted master plan. So I would recommend you favorably consider this amendment. You know what, I should add one more thing. So the redevelopment plan that exists for the Hexa site is based upon an underlying rehabilitation designation, and it's even written, spelled out in one of the whereases here. That was done many years ago. You might recall last year, council asked the board and in turn us to do a preliminary investigation for redevelopment. And we had a public hearing here, and it was recommended by this board to mayor and council to declare the Hexa properties an area in need of redevelopment, which I believe was done. That whereas isn't in here, not that that really matters, but if the end goal of that effort from a year ago was to allow mayor and council, the township, to enter into a pilot agreement, a financial agreement with that developer of the Hexa site, I just wonder if this redevelopment plan needs to be further amended to recognize that it's not just based upon an underlying rehabilitation designation, but a more recent redevelopment area designation, just to as mayor and council and business administrator, so forth, are negotiating with that Hexa property owner, potentially a financial agreement. I think, and Mr. Campbell, maybe we can talk offline, but we may want to separately just have a conversation or recommend to town council, Sandra, that the redevelopment plan pull in the recently adopted redevelopment area designation.
I think that makes sense. I think it can be done on a parallel or a separate track.
Yeah, it doesn't interfere with this, but it would just put belts and suspenders on whatever negotiations are taking place.
I would echo some of what Tim has said, is data centers are a hot thing right now. And in most municipalities, everyone starts looking at the industrial districts and they analyze or analogize data centers to warehouses because they're storage in a different form or different format. So it's a good location for it. And notwithstanding the fact that that's where everyone's looking, I think it makes sense to amend the redevelopment plan to specifically permit it. I think that facilitates that kind of investment. One of the big data center operators, they'll have a greater level of comfort that there's an ordinance adopted or a redevelopment plan that specifically permits it. And I think it makes sense to describe and put the parameters in place that the ordinance are proposed. So if there are any questions for me or for Mr. Cornet.
Through the chair.
Go ahead,
to-
Dan.
For an industrial area, the data center is the less intense of the thing.
Oh my gosh, it'd be
Right, that's what I'm saying.
less intense than warehousing with all the tractor
That's-
trailers coming and
right.
going. And I know we probably should talk about it, but from a rateable standpoint, it'll be, in my opinion, much higher rateable than just a warehouse.
And less
The
intense.
warehouse is a box, right? It
Right.
doesn't have a whole lot of value.
Right.
Data center is going to be filled with all kinds of equipment
And less intense for the area.
and less
impact on
intense
the area.
on the outside.
Right, and even for everything else for
Yeah.
that location, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just.
And
wanted
I
to
think it's a
confirm.
double win for the township.
Right. And I agree with you and the solicitor saying about adding the other redevelopment to it, so this way. it's all
Yeah,
fine.
because you can't, a governing body, a township can't enter into a redevelopment agreement without a redevelopment plan attached to it, as an exhibit. And if the redevelopment plan only recognizes the underlying rehabilitation commercial corridor that was put in place many years ago, it doesn't really give the ability to enter into a financial agreement.
Right.
That comes from the redevelopment area designation.
Right.
Just has to be updated.
Thank you.
Any questions from any of the board member about this application, or this ordinance, really?
So, Mr. Chairman, if the board is inclined to recommend back to council that they should take action on this amendment to the redevelopment plan, I took the liberty of drafting a resolution, and maybe I could read it.
Yeah, sure.
And then if there's a motion on it. So it's resolution PB 10-2025 of the Monroe Township Planning Board confirming master plan consistency of ordinance O:02-2025 entitled An Ordinance of the Township of Monroe to amend the Hexa Builder redevelopment plan for a portion of the commercial development area pursuant to NJSA 40A:12A-14. Whereas the Township Council of the Township of Monroe has referred a proposed ordinance number O:02-2025 entitled An Ordinance of the Township of Monroe to amend the Hexa Builders redevelopment plan for a portion of the commercial redevelopment area pursuant to NJSA 40A:12A-14 to the Planning Board for Master Plan Consistency Review pursuant to the aforementioned statute. And whereas this ordinance amends the Hexa Builders redevelopment plan, which was originally adopted by Monroe Township Council by ordinance O:19-2022 at their September 26, 2022 council meeting, as subsequently amended by ordinance O:04-2023, collectively the ordinance, and whereas the ordinance implemented the redevelopment plan for rehabilitation properties comprised of blocks 8401, lots 8, 9, and 10 of the tax map of the Township of Monroe. Whereas Monroe Township Council now desires to further amend the Hexa Builder redevelopment plan in order to provide a more expansive opportunity for development of the property and to effectuate a plan that is consistent with the goals and objectives of the township for rehabilitation of the property. And on March 3rd, 2025, the Planning Board reviewed the ordinance, which is incorporated herein by reference. Whereas the board planner testified that the ordinance is consistent with the vision, goals, and objectives as expressed in the Monroe Township Comprehensive Master Plan and the 2012 Master Plan Reexamination Report. Whereas the Planning Board has found and determined that ordinance number O:02-2025 is consistent with the Master Plan and the Master Plan Reexamination and makes no recommendations for changes to the ordinance prior to adoption. Now therefore be it resolved by the Planning Board of the Township of Monroe that ordinance number 002-2025 entitled, "An Ordinance of the Township of Monroe to amend the Hexa Builders redevelopment plan for a portion of the commercial redevelopment area pursuant to NJSA 40A 12A14 that has been referred from the Township Council pursuant to NJSA 4055D26A, is hereby declared to be consistent with the master plan and the master plan reexamination of the Township of Monroe, and that no changes are recommended prior to adoption. Be it further resolved that the board secretary be and is hereby directed to immediately transmit a certified copy of this resolution to the municipal clerk of the Township of Monroe to remain on file with the township. If there is a motion, it would be made to adopt that resolution.
You heard our solicitor. Andy? Roll call.
Mr. Hessel.
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy. Yes. Mr. Giacomucci.
Yes.
Mr. Laughlin.
Yes.
Ms. Fox.
Yes.
Mr. Kozak.
Yes, at the advice of our planner and solicitor.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Okay. That is approved.
All
And
right.
the resolution is memorialized.
The
Okay,
next
that's-
matter
Go ahead.
on your agenda is also an ordinance for review, setting forth standards for billboards, for the standards for erection and maintenance of billboards. Tim, do you have any comments or thoughts that you care to share?
Sure, yeah. So, again, this ordinance was also prepared by the Township Solicitor's Office, Sandra Grace. We did have a chance, my office had a chance to review it and provide some suggested edits by track change. It wasn't me, Adam Warburton, made those edits. It was in an attempt, and I think it came out in this draft, in an attempt to not appear to be spot zoning. I think the first draft of this amended ordinance for billboards was saying that, one new billboard could go on this one spot on Berlin Cross Keys Road. We changed up the wording so that it's a corridor between Falcon Way Boulevard and Route 42. And we gave some spacing requirements, and at the end of the day, I believe there's still only like one location where it could go, but to make it not be spot zoning. So we made those edits, and then that's what's before you tonight. I went through, again, our master plan to see if there are any goals and objectives or anything in the master plan that speaks to billboards in general, and the master plan is silent on billboards, which, I mean, it's understandable. It's not something that, something that you deal with every day. So, and I'm hoping, Solicitor, if you have a resolution already prepared,
I do.
if you could maybe, instead of saying it's consistent with the master plan, do a double negative, it's not inconsistent
Sure.
with the master plan.
We can do that.
Because I just don't find anything in here that would say, well, it's consistent with the master plan, but I also don't find, I would say that it's not inconsistent with the master plan. That's all.
Through the
Anyone
chair,
else from the board? Go ahead.
Question. So this only pertains to Berlin Cross Keys Road?
Yeah, because the corridor that was selected years ago when there was an ordinance done was the Pike from Berlin Cross Keys Road to Sicklerville Road, right? That was the only corridor, and that's because that's where they all existed. Nothing stretching into the Pinelands, I don't know how they would view it. They probably wouldn't endorse it or certify it anyhow. So this was to add one more corridor, Falcon Way to 42. Yeah.
Thank you.
So similar to the others, I have a proposed ordinance, I'm sorry, a proposed resolution. If the board is inclined to act on our planner's recommendation, and it would be Planning Board Resolution 11 of 25, Township of Monroe Planning Board Resolution recommending amendments to Chapter 175 of the Code of the Township of Monroe to provide definitions and standards for the erection and maintenance of billboards. Whereas the Monroe Township Council introduced a proposed ordinance to Chapter 175 of the Code of the Township of Monroe, providing certain definitions and standards in relation to the erection, maintenance of billboards, identified in greater detail on the attached Exhibit A, which is the actual ordinance. The ordinance amendment includes an amendment to 175-135 of the code providing definitions relating to billboards. The ordinance amendment includes the creation of section 175-91-2 of the code, which provides standards relating to the erection and maintenance of billboards. Whereas the MLUL, specifically NJSA 4055-D64, requires the governing body to refer any proposed amendment to a zoning ordinance to the planning board prior to hearing for its adoption by the governing body. The Township Council referred the proposed amendments to the Monroe Township Planning Board for a report and recommendation pursuant to NJSA 4055-D64. The MLUL, specifically 4055-D26, requires the planning board to make and transmit to the governing body its report and recommendation with regard to any zoning ordinance amendment. The planning board reviewed the proposed amendment at its meeting of March 3rd, 2025. The planning board, at its meeting of March 3rd, 2025, voted to recommend to the township that it pass, adopt, and otherwise approve the ordinance amendments. And whereas the planning board desires to memorialize this decision at its regular meeting of March 3, 2025. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board makes the following findings of fact and conclusions of law, : the proposed ordinance amendment is not inconsistent with the master plan of the Township of Monroe. Be it further resolved that the planning board hereby recommends to the township that it pass, adopt, or otherwise approve the proposed ordinance amendments. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be submitted to the Township Council. Is there a motion to adopt that resolution?
You heard our solicitor. I need a motion or any questions on this at this time? I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, Mr. Giacomucci? Mr. Hessel? Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Laughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Kozak?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Thanks, Ed. Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Public
The
portion.
next order of business, I need a motion to open to the public.
I'll make a motion to open to the public.
Is there a second? All in favor? Opposed? Anyone from the public want to comment on this application or anything? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next order of business is approval of the minutes of January 9th, 2025. Need a motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody have any reports? Aim, you have any? Ed, you're, none? Anyone else?
I'll just make one quick report.
Go ahead, Tim, and.
So with round 4 of affordable housing in New Jersey kicking in high gear, so the end of February, which was Friday, was the deadline for objectors to file objections to any towns that accepted or tried to modify their fourth round obligation number given to them by the DCA. Monroe did not try to change the number. We accepted the number given to us by the DCA last fall. But there were approximately 150 towns, I believe somewhere in that range, that did try to modify, adjust the number down. And both Fair Share Housing Center and the New Jersey Builders Association filed motions, lawsuits, I don't know what you call it, but they're challenging those 150 or some odd towns that did that change, that adjustment downward. So now the towns, I guess, that they did not file objections to, those numbers are now kind of like locked in stone as of now, today, and we have until June 30th to prepare yet another housing element and fair share plan. So we'll get working on that. We'll be meeting upstairs and get going. And we'll have to have a hearing here sometime probably in June.
That's it, Tim? All right, anything else from anybody on the board? None? At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.